Hey, darlings. The dawn gently leaked through the curtains of the large bedroom, washing the motionless face of Natalia in bed. The first sunny rays reflected sadness in her eyes, sadness that became her shadow at 35 years old. She always imagined her life differently. A happy family, a childish laugh filling the corridors of her home, a husband sharing small moments of life. However, reality turned out to be different. Over time, especially after they came across the harsh reality that they could not have children, Anatoly was no longer the person who Natalia loved. Embraced by work and his own disappointments, he spent days, and sometimes weeks away from home, leaving Natalia to drown in loneliness. She tried to get closer to him, offered psychotherapy for the couple, but Anatoly always had an excuse, always had something more important. The long-awaited day came when the morning sun promised a new beginning. It was Natalia's birthday. Despite the coldness that prevailed between her and Anatoly, she still had a spark of hope that this day could mean an update for both of them. She got up and went to the kitchen to make coffee, immersed in the dream of possible plans for Anatoly to surprise her. However, the silence in the house was a painful reminder of the distance that divided them. Her thoughts were interrupted by the phone. It was Mel, one of her best friends. "Happy birthday, Natalia." Excited, Mel called out. "Are you ready for what will be your birthday today?" Natalia smiled at such a friendly friend. "Thank you, Mel. I'm not sure if we have plans, and if they are at all." "What does that mean?" "Anatoly didn't tell you anything." The surprise in Mel's voice was obvious. "No, he was too busy lately," Natalia answered, trying to hide her disappointment. "Well, it doesn't matter. We have our own plans. See you after lunch," said Mel. Her decisive tone made it clear that she would not accept it was noon and together with him. Natalia's friends filled the house with laughter and conversations. However, the absence of Anatoly felt like emptiness that echoed with every minute. Just at the moment they cut the cake, the door opened. It was Anatoly, noticeably tired and confused. "Oh, I see. We have guests," Anatoly commented, surprised by the gathered. Natalia felt, I have a birthday today," Anatoly reminded him. He stopped, and an understanding was reflected on his face. "Oh my God, Natalia. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about all these troubles." Following this silence was awkward. Natalia's friends exchanged with uncertain glances. "All right," Natalia lied, although the pain in her voice was obvious. "I'm glad you're home." Soon, Natalia's friends said goodbye, leaving her alone with Anatoly. There was an awkward attempt to talk, but the words seemed empty, unable to keep the distance that divided them. "We need to talk." Natalia met Anatoly with a look after a long silence. He nodded, and Natalia was preparing for a conversation, which, as she knew, was necessary but which she was afraid of. "Yes, it is necessary, but not today. Today I want to calmly end my birthday," she decidedly said. Anatoly nodded, and in his eyes, the sadness caused by late repentance was reflected. "I am very sorry. We will all succeed, Natalia. I promise." Natalia lay in bed, and the empty side next to her was a cruel reminder of how far they became from each other, despite the promise of Anatolia. Deep inside she understood that it could not go on like this. The time of change came, although she still did not know how and when it would happen. After a peaceful night, Natalia brought to life a sense of calmness, a calmness that had not existed long ago. She found the oasis of peace in the midst of an emotional storm when she immersed herself in her creativity. However, this calmness did not last long. Fate has prepared a new turn, which will be a test for the new acquired forces of Natalia. In the usual, it would seem, the day of Natalia decided to return home earlier than usual. Natalia, still immersed in the sense of satisfaction, which the picture gave her, was not ready to be surprised when he entered the door, which was only more shocking than what he brought with him. A young woman, Philippe, of amazing beauty, but with a look that could not hide some concern. "Anatoly, what does it mean?" Natalia asked, trying to preserve her self-control, despite the whirl of emotions that began to arise inside her. "Natalia, we need to talk," Anatoly began, avoiding looking into the eyes. Philippa was silent, watching the happening with a mixed feeling of discomfort. Natalia's heart was pounding, feeling the storm coming. They sat in the living room, where Anatoly, trying to hide his nervousness, revealed the truth about his alienation. Philippa is pregnant, and he is a father. This news became a blow to Natalia, depriving her of hope for reconciliation and future happiness with her beloved man. "Natalia, I'm sorry, but I decided that we and Philippe will start a new life together. This will be better for everyone," Anatoly explained, without looking into her eyes. Betrayal and pain were unbearable, but at that moment something inside Natalia lit up. The place of firmness, which she did not suspect, gave way to the vulnerability and sadness. Looking at Anatoly and then at Philippe, Natalia got a voice. "No, Anatoly. The best thing for everyone will be if I find my own way. The path without lies and betrayal. Philippa can stay with you. And I'm leaving," she said with clarity and conviction, even surprising herself. The decision was made. Over the next few days, Natalia organized her move to a small apartment in the city center. Each packed item was a memory, a part of her past life, from which she had to refuse. However, with every printed box, she felt how her previous life weight was decreasing. The crossing meant not only the end of her marriage, but also the beginning of her own rebirth. In this small apartment, surrounded by her pictures and brushes, Natalia began to rebuild her life from scratch. It was a slow and sometimes painful process, but at the same time a full moment of discovery and joy. One day in the afternoon, studying the surroundings, Natalia found herself in front of a charming little cafe. Something made her go inside. Having a cup of coffee and watching people passing by, she could not help but think about what awaits her in the future. She had not yet known about this, but her life was to intertwine with the life of a person who would change her world in such a way that she could not imagine. Natalia looked out the cafe window, thinking about her journey. Although the path ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear. She was ready to meet everyone so that it would not happen with a proudly raised head. For the first time in a long time, she felt really free. The dawn light gently leaked through the windows of a small apartment in the center of the city, where Natalia began her new life. Although she was more modest than the house she shared with Anatoly, this room began to seem like her real home. The walls decorated her paintings, each of which told about one of the stages of her emotional journey. Having decided to learn more about her new district, Natalia went out on the neighboring street, enjoying the anonymity that the city offered her. So, almost by the will of fate, she ended up in a park, where the children's laughter filled the air, and the greenery of nature brought peace to her soul. André heard someone's voice behind him. "Be careful," André said, having caught the plane before it crashed into Natalia. She was surprised and turned around. "What a rescue," she commented, impressed by André's agility. He smiled and handed the toy back to Alexei, who was running to them. Sometimes Alexei forgets to look where he is launching his plane, and the conversation flowed naturally from the empty to the exchange of fragments of their life. Natalia, surprisingly, told about her recent move and the beginning of a new life. André listened carefully and made notes that testified of an understanding that was beyond the expectation. "It is bold to start all over again," said André, looking at her with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Natalia shook her shoulders. A shy smile appeared on her face. "Probably there comes a time when there is no other choice. Life pushes you to change. I understand it more than you think, Andrei admitted. After the death of my wife, it seemed to me that the world had stopped, and only Alexei supported me. He is my little hero. Exchange of stories instantly created a connection between them, strengthened by mutual understanding of pain and hope. Found in Andrei and Alexei a reflection of the power and the ability to restore full-fledged life. Do you want to join us tomorrow? We come here almost every day. Alexei needs a friend for games, and I think we will not be disturbed by communication with the hopes that Andrei proposed. Natalia was instantly flustered. Andrei's proposal was a step in the unknown, an obligation to enter into a new life. Finally, she agreed. Thank you. Saying goodbye to that day with Andrei and Alexei, Moral felt the warmth in her heart, which had long been absent. An accidental meeting in the park opened the door to new friendship and, possibly, to a new way to find joy and connection in one's life. Several weeks passed since the first meeting in the park between Moral, Andrei, and Alexei. What started as an accidental friendship soon became an integral part of Moral's life. And every conversation opened all the new layers of communication and understanding. Andrei, with his calmness and sympathy, became a quiet haven for Moral, and the innocence and joy of Alexei reminded her of how wonderful it is to live in the moment. One day, when they drank coffee after a walk in the park, Andrei invited Moral to a small art exhibition in the local gallery. It was a modest event, but significant for Andrei, although Moral was engaged in art as a personal refuge. Something in the invitation of Andrea pushed her to accept the invitation, marking the first step to reintegration into a wider world outside of her bubble of loneliness and painting. On the night of the exhibition, Moral was nervous. She had long since participated in public activities outside of her close circle of friends. However, coming to the gallery and seeing Andrea's warm and friendly smile, she realized that she had made the right decision. The exhibition was a whirlwind of colors and emotions, and Moral was absorbed by the creative energy and environment. At the end of the evening, when they were walking home under the starry sky, Moral told Andrei about her passion for painting and how she became her salvation in the most difficult moments of her life. Andrei listened carefully, expressing not only understanding, but also admiration for the power of Moral. Your art is a reflection of your soul, Moral, Andrei sincerely said, which in the heart of the morale became light and hope appeared, which she considered lost. Friendship between Moral, Andrei, and Alexei became even deeper. Sunday became for them special days when they spent time together like a small, improvised family. They prepared, played in the park, or just enjoyed each other's society. Alexei, with his unbreakable childish enthusiasm, accepted Moral as a mother, and Moral saw in Alexei the spark of life and hope. Once, when Andrei and Moral united in silence after Alexei went to bed, Andrei decided to express his feelings. Moral, the last few months were for us with Alexei one of the happiest since we lost Judith. You brought light to our lives, and I would like to know what it means for us. Natalia was surprised by Andrei's sincerity and felt the thought of opening my heart again, giving and receiving love, at the same time scared and worried. Looking at Andrei, she saw not only a kind and caring person, but also the one who, like her, felt pain and was ready to take a risk for the sake of the promise of a future together. Andrei, I also felt that something special was growing between us. It scares me a little, I will not lie, but I am ready to find out where this path will lead. Natalia answered, stretching Andrei's hand. At that moment, with their hands intertwined, they both realized that they were on the verge of something new and beautiful. They did not know what difficulties and joys awaited them in the future, but were ready to overcome them step by step together. Autumn covered the city with golden and reddish leaves, creating a picturesque background for the changes that were taking place in the lives of Natalia, Andrei, and Alexei. Made in their dreams, they made a decision. Natalia will officially move to them, a symbolic but significant step towards the creation of a new family. One day, when the three of them enjoyed a cup of hot tea in the living room, surrounded by boxes that were yet to be unpacked, Natalia began one of many conversations that will determine their joint future. What do you think? Should we paint the room for the guests? This will be my studio. But I want her to feel like part of the house, something that represents us all, suggested by Natalia, looking for approval from Andrei and Alexei. I like this idea. We can do it this weekend. What do you think, Alexei? Do you want to help us choose a color? With enthusiasm, Andrei answered, and Alexei, whose eyes lit up when he mentioned the painting, energetically nodded. As an ocean, Alexei offered his innocence to his 8 years old. Natalia smiled, touched by the fact that a baby entered her plans. Then blue and green. This will create a calm space, complete creativity, she agreed. The conversation moved to the distribution of rooms, to the fact that each space can reflect a part of each of them, creating a real common house. However, not everyone was so simple. The transition to a joint life was also accompanied by uncertainty and fears. Later, when Alexei was already lying in bed, Natalia and Andrei gave themselves to the thought. Don't you think we're in too much of a hurry? Natalia asked, and in her voice there was an uncertainty. Andrei took her by the hand, offering tangible support. I don't think so. It's so natural, as if all the pieces finally stood in place. He answered. His gaze was tense and sincere. Natalia nodded. The warmth of Andrei's hands spread her tension. You are right. I just never thought that happiness could appear again. And now, when it appeared, I'm afraid to lose it, she admitted. I understand, said Andrei. But remember that the three of us, and there is nothing we could do if we were each other. The following days were filled with projects and laughter, and the essence of the house was divided. The painting of the studio and Natalia turned into an adventure, and Alexei declared himself a master of painting and left his fingerprints in one of the corners. To always remember that this is our house, he said with seriousness, causing the laughter of Natalia and Andrei. Thank you for choosing us, for choosing this life with us. Natalia turned to him with her face. Her eyes shone with emotion. I could not be anywhere else. You are my home. Natalia's life gained a joyful rhythm, full of small rituals and joint moments that made up the fabric of her everyday life. Natalia's integration into the life of Andrei and Alexei now seemed they found each other in a reliable shelter and an unconditional connection that strengthened them. One morning, preparing breakfast, Natalia felt a strange fatigue, explaining this in a hurry for the last few weeks. She decided not to rush, but the feeling did not leave her, accompanied by a subtle feeling that the mind had already begun to understand, but the heart did not want to believe. Natalia allowed herself to think about what recently seemed like a distant dream. Shivering hands and holding her breath, she decided to confirm her suspicions. The expectation was painful, but when the result came, Natalia lost the gift of speech. Positive. She was pregnant. She was overwhelmed by the excitement mixed with the licking disbelief. This child was the symbol of love that they shared with Andrei. Promise of future happiness. Andrei, having heard this, was stunned for a moment by the emotions he had grasped. Tears filled his eyes, and he hugged Natalia, whispering words of love and gratitude. Alexei, although at first he was embarrassed by the excitement of adults, soon shared their delight, promising to be the best older brother in the world. The preparation for the appearance of a new member of the family began almost immediately. Natalia was also filled with anticipation and joy. Meanwhile, Natalia was in a state of almost constant amazement, touching her belly with a smile that did not go off her lips. The opportunity to become a mother, who once was a source of pain and hopelessness, turned into a reality of complete hope. As the pregnancy of Natalia and Andrei developed, Everyone became closer, united by the general expectation of in the evening. They talked about plans for the future, names, and how they will raise a son or daughter with strong, kind, and brave. One day, when Natalia was drawing in her studio, Andre joined her, watching how the color's brains are reviving a new work. "This child is already our greatest work of art," he said, including Natalia in the embrace. Natalia agreed, emotions overflowing her, and she thought, "I almost gave up until I found you with Alexei," she admitted, tilting her head on Andrei's shoulder. "This child is a miracle, our miracle." The happiness that filled Natalia's life, Andre and Alexei's, suddenly darkened the shadows from the past. Once, when Natalia and Andre planned to decorate the baby's room, they called the door, interrupting their sweet thoughts. When they opened the door, Natalia saw Anatoly. The past time and perfect mistakes have laid their mark. In his eyes, once full of confidence, now reflected regret and deep sorrow. "Natalia, I need to talk to you. Please," he said, and in his voice an insistent request sounded. Surprised and nervous, Natalia slowly nodded, allowing him to enter. Andre, a witness of the meeting, stood next to her, silently supporting her. Anatoly began to tell his story. Philippa left, taking not only a large part of Anatoly's state, but also telling that the child she was waiting for was not his. All this was a farce, carefully planned manipulation to ensure his position and wealth. Empty and lonely, Anatoly faced the reality of his decisions and the pain they caused. "I understood that the biggest mistake in my life was the separation with you. I lost everyone, but most of all I regret that I lost you," confessed to Anatoly, and tears rolled down his eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know how I will regret." Natalia listened silently with a heavy heart. Although she sympathized with the person she once loved, she knew that the path passed after his departure brought her much richer and full of life than the one that Anatoly could offer. "Thank you for the apology. It was a long journey for us both since we broke up. I have gained happiness, a new family," said Natalia, for a moment looking at Andre, and then again at Anatoly. "I hope you will find peace. Who knows? One day you will get a new chance to be happy." Anatoly nodded, taking her words with a mixture of relief and sadness. After a few more minutes of awkward talk, he got up to leave. "I wish you all the best, Natalia. I really wish," he said, and went out the door, leaving his past. Staying alone with Andre, Natalia felt a surge of emotions. Unexpected visit shook the memories and feelings from which, as it seemed to her, she refused. Always supporting her, hugged, giving comfort and confidence. "What we built together with Alexei is our future. Anatoly is part of your past, and it should remain the same," said Andre. His words were full of love and promises. Natalia nodded, realizing that his words are true. The family she created with Andre and Alexei was her and new opportunities. Anatoly was an important part of her life, but now he was just a memory, a lesson learned on the way to happiness. Over the next few days, Natalia and Andre, with new enthusiasm, have taken up the preparation for the birth of a baby, deciding not to let the shadows of the past haunt their future. The past confirmed their loyalty to each other and the family they created, and became a witness to the power of love and forgiveness. Autumn brought with it the wind of change, and Natalia's life, which turned a new direction, full of hope and love, again faced the past. Anatoly, moving with late regret and disappointment from life with Philip, once appeared in Natalia's search for redemption. Having seen Anatoly standing in front of her after so long, Natalia felt a whirl of emotions. Her initial surprise changed with unexpected calm. Time and love of Andre and Alexei healed the wounds left by Anatolia. Listening to his stories about his mistake, about how Philip deceived him, about subsequent loneliness, Natalia realized that he no longer held back. However, this did not mean that she wanted to return to his side. I understand your pain, Anatoly, but I cannot offer you what you are looking for, said Natalia. Her voice was firm, but suffering. I built a new life that gave me what I always wanted, a family and true love. There is no place for you in it. Meeting with determination in the eyes of Natalia, Anatoly realized the depth of his mistake. He expected to find an open door, a path back to life, from which he refused. But instead, he found an imaginary woman, strong and independent, whose heart belonged to another. After leaving, Anatoly and Natalia closed the door and for a moment leaned against it, letting out a sigh of relief mixed with sadness. This visit made memories of the past, but at the same time confirmed her decision to live on. Andre, who was in the studio and worked on some projects, came out, hearing the door closed, and caught Natalia with a thoughtful expression on her face. Without further words, he hugged her, expressing silent support. Natalia allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. She was grateful to Andre for the fact that he gave her strength and consolation. That evening, when the family gathered for dinner, she told about the visit of Anatoly, Andre, and Alexei, assuring them that his presence in their lives is true happiness. Alexei, with the innocence of a child who sees the world in simple terms, took Natalia in his arms and said, "Mom, while we are together, everything will be fine." After this incident, Natalia's life entered a familiar course. She was even more immersed in her work, finding new ways to express her gratitude and love for life, which she built together with Andre and Alexei. Andre, in turn, dedicated himself to each moment spent with them was filled with affection and security. The blooming trees and warm sunbeams were the perfect background for the new chapter, which they were going to start. The birth of the baby was to happen from day to day, and anticipation filled every conversation, every joint moment. Natalia, surrounded by love and support from Andre and Alexei, felt full of self. The pain and suffering that once were in her life turned into a source of strength and gratitude. With a strong understanding, support, and, above all, unconditional love. Finally, the long-awaited day came. With the first rays of dawn, Natalia began to feel the first signs. Andre, always attentive, supported her at every step, and Alexei watched the mix of nervousness and excitement. The arrival at the hospital was a whirlwind of emotions, but they felt ready to meet new family members. In the hospital, passed between anxiety and moments of calm. Andre and Alexei, an inseparable team, patiently awaited the news, and Natalia, with strength, about which she did not even suspect, was preparing for the moment that will forever change their lives. And now, in the explosion of joy and tears of happiness, the baby was born. When Natalia first took her son in her arms, it seemed to her that everything in the universe was arranged in such a way as to bring this moment closer. Andre, seeing his partner and their new son together, felt his overwhelming love and gratitude, promising to protect and take care of his family, everyone he has. Alexei, now officially older brother, the little one came up, admiring the peaceful sleeping little creature. "Hello," he whispered, carefully touching the little boy's hands. "I'm your brother, Alexei," but also indescribable happiness. Natalia and Andre, although they were exhausted, were in a state of continuous joy, surprising the perfection of their little family. Alexei took on his new role with seriousness and tenderness, which touched everyone. On the crests of the baby, surrounded by friends and loved ones, Natalia and Andre shared their happiness with those who were next to them in the most difficult times. The ceremony was simple, but deeply emotional. It was a moment of celebration and gratitude. In the silence of the night after the party, Natalia and Andre remained alone, watching their children fall asleep. "Have you ever imagined that everything will end up like this?" Natalia asked, Her voice was full of surprise and satisfaction. Andre smiled, shaking Natalia's hand. No, but I always knew that with you any future will be bright. And this story ends the path of Natalia from loneliness and pain to the acquisition of a new life, full of love, hope, and family. Through the difficulties and joys of Natalia, Andre and Alexei prove that a real home can be found in the connections that we create and in the love that we decide to give and receive. Their story is a testimony that love is able to heal, transform, and shed light in the darkest corners of the heart. Ending our journey through the stories that concern and unite, we invite you to share your thoughts and tell us how these stories touched your hearts. Comment, share, and if you liked what you saw here, subscribe, so you will not miss any of the future adventures that await us. Your voice enriches our community, and together we can continue to explore endless lessons that can offer life. Subscribe, and let's create connections through history.